not EQ, it's not compression. The number one mixing mistake is actually has nothing to do with processing or EQ or compression. Quite simply, mix balance. Now you might already be rolling your eyes like, oh my god, mix balance. How many of these videos are you going to do, Scott? At first you said EQ mistakes aren't making EQ mistakes, and now you're saying it's actually not a mistake. Mix balance is a big mistake. What are you doing? Part of mixing music is making decisions and creating a cohesive sounding mix where all the elements are coming together as a whole to create a pleasant overall sound experience that meets the vision for yourself and for your audience. And the first way that you do that is with mix balance. So I've got a session here. This is the same session that I used for the Mixing Metal workshop, but I wanted to show this session in particular because it's all free plugins. I don't want anyone to be like, well, yeah, Scott, you had this compressor and that compressor, you missed. It doesn't matter. All free stuff here, but and the mastering chain as well. And I really wanted to talk about balance. When I play this here, I want you to listen to how it sounds like a song. Everything is audible. You can identify every single instrument, and everything is pleasing to listen to, and your direction to what you should be listening to changes. Okay, let me just play like a minute. Okay, so I played the intro, the verse, the break, and the first chorus. Now, if you're paying attention, if you use Cubase, you can see here that when the song was playing, there's actually there's the original mix balance. Then there's also automation to maintain the balance. In the beginning here, you probably didn't notice that this has a 4 dB volume drop in volume when the vocals come in. However, if you listen to that, you kind of perceive it to be the same. Let me show you what I mean. If I didn't tell you that I dropped that by 4 dB, you never would have known. First of all, it sounds like it's on the same level volume-wise, but second of all, your attention shifted to the vocals. All right, and this only works because we already have good original mix balance. I don't want to sit here and say like, oh, I always nail mix balance. I always do everything perfectly. I've come back to this session after not hearing it for a week, and I was like, oh, I'd do that different. I would do this different. So it kind of speaks to the truth, you know, is a mix ever done? And no, usually a deadline has come, and you need to give it to the client, right? The main reason why this is going to happen, and by the way, this is all based on the assumption that you have a good listening environment, so either headphones with Sound ID reference or a really good room. The first reason that this is going to happen is you weren't using a reference track. Pop mixers are successful for a reason, and they can't hide from you because their mixes are everywhere. They're on CDs or records or on Spotify now, so you can go listen to what they did. So if you aren't studying a reference track, for example, I have the song, it's in this genre. This is a really good song example in this genre, has great balance, has great overall sound. Listen to that song and dissect it and go, what did they do? Why does it sound good? How can I emulate that? Okay? Don't fall into the trap of, I want to be original, therefore I don't listen to anything. That's dumb. How are you going to originate on something that you don't even know what sounds like? That's blows my mind, okay? So the very first thing is you have to get a reference track, and you have to understand to what are you comparing, all right? Okay, what is your mix balance and what is it based on when you compare it to other mixes in the genre that you like, right? So that's one of the main reasons why that happens. The second reason why this is going to happen is you started mixing or balancing your mix in an orthodox way. What I mean by this is that I will get a mix, I will instantly know that A, the guitar player mixed it, and B, that they didn't start mix balancing from a good position. Now, obviously, I don't go, oh, you're a guitar player and you mix this, you suck. I always ask them, so tell me the process. How did you start this? What did you do? It's usually, well, I came up with the riff idea, I wrote the riffs, recorded the guitars, then I wrote the drums, and then I wrote the bass, and then I mixed them in. We have an error in the order of operations here. You should worry about recording all the things first. Then you drop everything down, and you start bringing in the mix from an anchor point. You need to have a main anchor point that holds like the foundation of the entire mix. If you start from the guitars, that's like putting your roof on before you even have the walls up. Like, how do you do that? So I know people love to say there are no rules in music as long as it sounds good. Yep, okay, there are no rules in music, but there are a lot of, it's a good idea to do this based on industry knowledge. And be my guest. Go ahead and try it your way. And in a couple of years, when you're still kind of in the same spot, struggling with the same things, and after you've spent like hundreds of dollars on plugins and not getting better results, maybe try to revert back to, it's a good idea to do this and see what happens to the result. What I mean by an anchor point is that you start from a fundamental rhythm position in the song. Usually going to be a kick drum or a snare drum, which is the anchor point where everything else is going to be balanced too. And that's like the light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing, where, okay, I'm starting here, now I bring everything in. So you bring the rest of the drums in to where they have a nice level, and then you can decide, should I bring my bass in first or my guitars in first? Usually that's up in the air, you can do either or. But you can see here, you have the main rhythmic section, and everything then gets compared to that. So you're already setting yourself up in a good way to create a great mix balance. It's all about practice at this point, getting your ear attuned to what sounds good and what the level should be. Reference track really goes a long way here, all right? The third reason why this happens is being partial to a particular instrument in the mix. And yeah, okay, we can rip on the guitar players all we want, but I have mixed plenty of music where the vocalist is an absolute dick, and they have to be loud, and they have to be on top of everything else, even though there's a really cool guitar solo happening over here, and that's just kind of like how it goes sometimes, you got to pay the bills, and you're never going to win all those arguments. But it most commonly happens with guitar players in this sphere because a lot of times the guitar players are the principal songwriter and they're recording. So if you're partial to the instrument in the mix and it happens to be yours, just know that this is going to happen. This happened to me a lot because I'm a drummer and I always wanted all the elements of the drums to be loud and heard, and everything should come through crystal clear. Can't speak today, but that's just not how it works, guys. You're working within a limited range of frequencies and you can't have everything up all the time. It just doesn't work. So you have to make compromises and decisions about what's going on. That's what a mixed balance is: compromise and decisions, further taken care of with automation in certain spots. So if you're the egotistical band member here, all right, and you can't accept a good mix versus a mix with your instrument being the loudest, that's a different problem that I can't help you with. But just remember, a good mix allows all of the instruments to shine, and good songwriting in particular will allow all instruments to shine in specific parts of the song. A great example of this is right here, when this break is playing. Listen to the bass. So we've got good mix balance of the bass. You can kind of hear it all the time. But when I was writing this, I wanted the song to be more interesting. And I was like, oh, did I re-record the guitar part here? What do I do? Maybe add some orchestra. Then I was like, no, it's staring me right in the face. Make a cool bass part. So this bass part is almost like its own particular bass solo. And it comes through loud and clear because the guitars have kind of stepped back with what they're playing on the guitar. The drums are pretty simple here. And so you get a nice front bass riff. So the bass player got a chance to show some of his chops, and yeah, everyone's happy. That happens a few times in the song, actually, even during this section here. Again, in the break. So even songwriting, when you're working on your music, that can go a long way in helping each member show their strengths. If you have a ridiculous bass player, give them a chance to do something cool. So maybe you're not doing something that amazing on guitar. Let that bass player rip out or do something neat. And the mix will speak for itself, because, if I was mixing something and I heard that and I was like, ooh, I need to make sure that this is audible all the time. This is a really cool bass riff. Let's make sure that stays in there. And the last thing I really want to touch on here is, again, that automation. Mix balance is not just about you move the fader to where it is and you're done. Music is dynamic, especially if you're working with bands that like to drop out instruments during certain times, or we got really heavy guitars and blast beats, and then like Cradle of Filth, we're just like, bam, now we have a key solo. Just we went from 100 to 20. How do we make that work? Yeah, so automation is the key here. Again, songwriting structure can really help here. Some kind of a fill denoting that something is coming up or a dynamic shift is going to happen. So this is where mix balance really plays a key, because you can get the levels set like in a good average, which is what I do. But then automation to maintain that mix balance is so important. Let me show you a couple examples here. Obviously, we have the giant example right here in the beginning with the synths, where it's pretty much full-blown volume here, and then 4 dB of reduction. It's insane, but you don't even feel it. You don't even hear it because the vocals come in. Couple things I also did here, and I went in depth with this in the mixing workshop, is automating the lead guitars. Making them louder in the beginning to make sure you heard them, and then they're not really necessary here during this chorus. Yeah, they could be a little louder during this chorus, and then here for the outro, they're even louder. This is also based on what the guitars were playing at the time, so there were volume dips of what was happening. So it's, the main original mix balance made sense when I brought the faders up and everything sounded good, and then getting really into the details of that mix balance, I use automation to maintain that. Because mix balance, in a way, is even more important than EQ or compression. I could even show you here. Let's say, let me just take one element here and just make it too loud. So let's take the guitars, and I'm going to turn the automation off. So it was 825. Okay, I'll turn the automation off, and I'll just make them like 2 dB louder. So I'll make them 2 dB louder while everything is playing, so you can hear the difference. Did you feel that significant shift in dynamics of that song? I'm going to do this again. This is very important, guys, because the power of volume is not discussed enough. All right, listen to this again. So right now it's at minus 8.25 dB. All right, it's the same riff in the same section. All I'm going to do is turn it up by 2 dB, which is not a lot. All right, all I'm going to do is turn it up by 2 dB, and you just pay attention to what happens to the song. In particular, obviously the guitars have gotten louder, but listen to all the other relationships. What happens to them? So by just a 2 dB shift in volume, what happened? Obviously, the guitars got louder. Yep, that'll make the guitar player happy. But it pushed the vocals into the back of the mix. So the very thing that we were building up for this intro, to make sure that the vocals come in hard and they really are like, oh, cool, vocals, I'm listening to the vocalist now, it's destroyed. It's destroyed. Volume is so incredibly important. And you can go crazy with automation, and I certainly have sometimes. Let me show you something else that's very common to do in metal. Pick volume automation. So you probably didn't even notice this, but here we have some, just some regular, like a snare roll going on. And then I'm dipping the volume of the kick drum anytime there's a kick roll, right? You don't even notice it. Let's go here where there's like a long kick roll. Let's turn off the automation. Let's see what happens. What you want you to, you're going to need a good listening position for this, but what you're going to hear is when the kick is playing by itself, has a nice sub punch. It kind of cuts through the mix, and it really has this satisfying dum dum, right? But listen to what happens to that low end energy when the automation is off, and it stays at a consistent level the whole time when the double bass starts. Well, not only is the kick now just way too loud, but we're getting a lot of more of that thumping energy, which is kind of ruining the low end tightness of the mix. You can still hear the bass guitar per se, but you really can't feel it anymore. Now, if you weren't really keen to this or paying attention, you might go, dang it, my compression settings are wrong. I need to go back and adjust the attack and release to make sure oh, you know what I need to do? I saw this one technique one time where someone bounced out the MIDI track and then split the audio and then put the audio on a different track. And then when it's only single kick notes, we have this EQ and compressor setting. Then we have the double bass. We have this EQ and compressor. Guys, it's not that complicated. Why are you doing that? It's not that complicated. Just turn it down. Automation point. We turn it down. So it's 3.9 here. And it goes down by 2 dB. And we maintain the energy of the kick. It still sounds good. It's still cutting through the mix. All's well. All's fantastic. This is often, there's a funny Family Guy joke, like with the first Star Wars thing that they did, where they're trying to kick the couch out of the garbage disposal, and Peter's like, well, put the couch down, put the couch down. This is simpler than we're making it. This couldn't explain the situation more aptly right now. It's simpler than a lot of us are making it. Volume. Just basic mix balancing volume will go so far when you're mixing, where you're not going to be concerned about, do I have the right compression settings or the right EQ settings? Those problems will literally just present themselves when you get the volumes correct. Here's another thing that you can do with volume automation. This happens a lot with toms, real toms in particular. So if you have small diameter toms and they have a really fast attack and they poke through terribly, with drum editing, MIDI, for example, you can kind of get away with that by really bringing the velocity down and making it a bit more round. But sometimes it's just going to happen where the toms are just going to be too damn loud and you need to turn down the tom fill. Let me show you a great example of this. So we have a tom fill here happening at many parts of the song. Just listen to the overall balance of the toms in context with everything happening here. We got a fill right here. Listen again. Just take it in. Like, okay, just kind of compare it to all the other elements of the song at this point. I mean, you still hear the fill, obviously, but just listen again. You can hear them. You can hear the punch. You can hear the transient. Now let's take that same thing. I just turned the automation off here, so it's the same exact volume through the whole song. Let's now go to the solo over here and listen to this tom fill. So I'm going to do this really quick. I'm going to go from here and then right to the tom fills and the solo. Like, they're 2 dB louder over here. And that's not because all of a sudden your compression settings are wrong or EQ settings are wrong. It's just because they're too damn loud. So you turn them down with automation, and then now we get this result. Mix balancing, guys. Volume mix balancing. It is so incredibly important. It should be talked about a lot more, and it's something that I talk about quite a bit in the metal mixing workshop, specifically because so many problems that you might run into with trying to get the right compression settings. I mean, these things are still important. I'm not trying to say this like, oh, you don't need to EQ or compress. However, when you get the mix balance where you want it to be and everything is gelling and working well together, EQ problems and compression things kind of just appear. If the guitars are sitting well correctly, you go, I like the volume of the guitars, I just can't hear them. Well, when you go into your diagnostic stage of EQ or your relative EQ stage, you can kind of go, you know what, there's something happening in the mid-range where I can't hear the guitars. And you're undoubtedly going to find some honky mid-range or some wah-wah, upper mid-range information, and you pull that out and you're going to go, holy crap, I can hear the guitars. In fact, I can hear them so loud that they're almost maybe a little bit too loud now. So it works like this. It works together. It's a dynamic give and take process, like I've always been saying in my videos, that it's just not do this, do this, do this, bam, 1 + 1 = 2, which equals mix. It's mixing music is a lot more like 1 + 1 = 2 - 1 divided by 0, just to be an asshole, times 1,000 minus 100, and that's this big, long algebraic equation until finally you get to the answer. This big, long, systematic algebraic expression, and then finally you work that down, and oh, here's the answer. That's a lot more what mixing is like. Small decisions over a course of time, but you have to set yourself up for success. And this is why I did the metal mixing live workshop. I guess it's up here, how I'm editing the video. But I wanted to bring these very important fundamental basics, okay? We call these basics, but they're so fundamental and they're so important to mixing music on a global scale that I just think they should be ingrained in every one of us. If you're mixing music and you want to make great sounding music, you have to literally master the fundamentals. Don't care about parallel compression, don't care about crazy techniques, don't care about anything. Side chaining, all this crap. I don't want to call it crap, it's not crap, but it means nothing if your guitars are too loud and you can't hear that, for example. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to pick on anybody here in particular. I hope I'm speaking to you so that you understand that the problems that you can create for yourself are innumerable. All right. So the metal mixing live workshop here, you click the link, and don't even believe me. Come down here. There's 15 reviews here. All these guys have left independent reviews. I'm not paying them any money. Okay. Chill out. But they were there, or they purchased it after the fact, and they talk about what the value is for them. All right. One thing I want to say here in this video, because I really want to point this out, there are 8 PDFs that I wrote by hand to accompany this live workshop. And these are not like some bullshit, I even wrote here, 2-page, low effort pieces of information that I just copy pasted over. Oh, here's a cool picture. I spent a long time working on these. Of all the 8 PDFs, I think the overall amount of pages, I think it's like 92, 89 to 92 pages, something like this. EQ, reverb, delay, compression, how to pick and analyze a reference track, how to listen to it, how to pinpoint everything about it, even, like how to listen for what's on first or second or third place, okay, and why that matters and how you can emulate it. Even listening to reference tracks, you could even figure out what kind of compression someone might be using on a reference track. But that's kind of the goal of this thing, guys. I hang my hat on this one. I'm very proud of this one. It's already helped a ton of people. And so I'm going to keep talking about this because I believe that this is a solid answer to a lot of the problems that you're facing right now. I wish I would have known this information 15 years ago when I started, because I'll tell you what, I bought a lot of compression plugins and EQ plugins thinking, great, now I can finally get a good bass tone. When if I had just taken the time to pick a reference track, analyze it, and then emulate it, and then really pay attention to mix balance and volumes, I think I would have made progress a lot faster than what I ended up, doing, which was very slow, frustrating, agonizing progress. All right, so I really hope you enjoyed the video, guys. It's all about balance, guys. It's all about mix balance, fader balance, and even panning. Okay, I talk about that in the workshop, but it is such a crucial thing, guys. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's so crucial. I can't talk about it enough. I mean, it's an amazing thing. Once you nail that mix balance, everything else kind of just falls together, and damn it if mixing is not a lot of fun at that point. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please click the link below and please get the workshop. It's gonna be an amazing thing for you. I think it's gonna be super eye-opening. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.